The water was rising. The evacuation warning had gone out. Everyone had gotten out of town except for one person. Police car drove up, knocked on the door. Come on, buddy, you gotta get out. The water's rising. I'm not going anywhere. God will protect me. Okay. Police leave. The water keeps coming up, floods through the streets, pours into the houses. Man's first floor is covered in water. He runs up the stairs to the second floor. Another rescue crew comes by, this time in a boat. They float by, knock on the window. Buddy, come on. We'll help you out of here. Get onto the boat. I'm not going. God will save me. Your call, buddy. And they go on. The water keeps rising, covers the second floor of the house. He gets out, climbs up onto the roof, stands on the roof. A helicopter comes by from the Coast Guard. They lower down a rope. And the guy says, no, God will save me. The helicopter flies away. The water keeps rising. The man dies. What else can you do? Goes up to heaven, confronts God and says, God, I believed in you. I knew you were going to save me. What happened? God says to him, I sent you a car. I sent you a boat. I sent you a helicopter. What more do you want me to do? Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. I was born and raised in a Dati family. I always knew what I believed, and yet, throughout my life at various points, I've had doubts. Alas, to my everlasting annoyance, the universe is not designed to be a place of certainty. Still, if you pay attention, if you watch what goes on around you, you can sometimes get some hints. I'd like to share with you two events that occurred to me at some point over the past several years that I took to be a personal message that said to me something more than what was just before my eyes was going on. The first of these events took place when I was in university. First year, Physics 101. It's a class of some 300-odd students, large room. I'm way up in the back in this old room in one of the few seats that they actually had that accommodated left-handed people. And don't get me wrong, I love the topic, I love physics, but I could wish that the professor was capable of putting a little bit of excitement into his voice. So I'm sitting up there, ignoring the lesson, wondering about all sorts of things. The professor's up at the front. His method of conveying information, he has one of these overhead projectors, for those of you who remember what those look like, with a scrolling plastic sheet on it. Don't really know what that would be called. But he would just turn a knob, it would scroll up and write on this thing. And that's what we would take notes from. Anyway, I'm wondering to myself, and I say, what would he do if the projector failed? I barely finished thinking that thought, and the projector died. Okay. The professor paused for a moment, then got up, went over to the blackboard, picked up a piece of chalk, and started continuing the lesson, writing on the chalkboard, with the chalk on the blackboard. And I think to myself, that was interesting. Well, what would he do if the power went out altogether? I barely finished thinking this thought, and the power went out. Well, once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, 3 times. So, as people from outside poke their heads into the room and say, hey everybody, classes are cancelled for the day, the power's out, as if we hadn't noticed. I get up, gather myself, and I say to myself, what would happen if the Mashiach were to come right now? Well, when I got home, turned on the TV, which happened to be set to the news channel, and I found out that right at the moment that I had been thinking those thoughts was, for those of you who remember several years back, when the riots over the tunnels by the Kotel broke out. And I thought to myself, that's a rather interesting coincidence. But no, it didn't go farther than that at that point. The second event occurred a few years later. I was heading to a movie with some friends. Matinee, middle of the day, quiet, the roads were empty. I was sitting in the passenger seat of the car, a friend was driving, and we stop at a red light. Roads are empty, no one around anywhere. And the light turns green. Okay, what do you do when the light turns green?
You go for it.
Okay, maybe it's the wrong country for that. I guess people don't really stop on the reds here. You go. Now, the light turns green. About a second later, a car comes around a curve in the opposite direction, doing at least double the speed limit. From nowhere, there was no evidence of this thing at all. It's around a corner, you couldn't really see it anyway. Completely ignores the red light, flies through at top speed. What happens? Could have really ruined my day. Except for one thing. When that light changed to green, I don't know why. I just held up my hand and said, wait. And the guy who was driving the car says, sure. We waited there for a second, didn't see anything, and then suddenly, boom! It didn't occur to me till years later. I had no idea what caused me to stop at that point. Something clearly had given me an impetus to do so. And that something saved my life. These events mean something to me because I was there. Even to the person sitting next to me, didn't necessarily know what was going through my mind at that point, it would mean nothing. But to me, living through this, said to me, there's something more going on than just what I see. Now, I don't know if these things happen to everybody. I don't know if anyone gets these sorts of hints coming in from outside. But if there is such a wake-up call, I just ask, are you paying attention? Mr. Toastmaster.
Please don't ask yourself what will happen if this will be possible. Please fill in the